colleagues, please be seated. Please can I remind members to switch off their mobile phones and electronic devices onto silent, please. First agenda item on council summons is to receive apologies for absence. In advance of the meeting, apologies have been received from councillors Farmer, Garber, Jones, Kitchen, Malkin, Mitchell and Owen. Are there any further apologies to be noted? Councillor Speak. Thank you. Item 2 is members' declarations of interest. Will members declaring an interest please identify themselves and their interest clearly and complete the usual yellow form before the end of the meeting. Firstly, are there any disclosable pecuniary interest to be declared? Councillor Shah?
Yeah, I will be taking part in the binding motion, Madam Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other interests to be declared? Thank you. Agenda item 3 is to receive and confirm the minutes of the October Council meeting. Are these minutes moved?
Move the minutes, Madam Mayor.
Are they seconded?
Seconded, Madam Mayor.
All in favour? That's carried. Agenda item 4 is to deal with such announcements as I may decide to lay before Council. Colleagues, since our last meeting of full Council, I have been honoured to lead the district in its act of remembrance. Over 2,000 of us gathered at Wakefield War Memorial to pay our respects. I have supported the Royal British Legion in their Poppy Appeal launches, celebrated the first anniversary of our 5 Towns Veteran Club, and delighted to host a civic reception for our standard bearers to say thank you. Numerous awards evenings and business meetings have taken place in the district and the region, and I have been delighted to represent Wakefield at Lord Lieutenant's Awards evening. Planted my favourite tree at the annual Interfaith Tree Planting Ceremony and attended the We Are Wakefield business breakfast meeting. As we work our way through the seasonal calendar, I have attended Halloween parties, the switching on of Christmas lights around the district, and numerous pantomimes and productions, with many more to come. Thank you to everyone who supported my recent charity fund night. We all had a fun evening with Chris Kamara, and we raised over £3,500 for Andy's Man Club, which is a real achievement, and I'd like to thank you all for your support for that as well. Finally, colleagues, I would like to extend an invitation for you to join me back in the Mayor's Parlour for seasonal drinks and nibbles, and when the time comes, I wish you all and your loved ones a happy and peaceful Christmas. We've got 2 councillors that need to leave early. Are there any more that need to leave? Thank you. Agenda item 6 is the leader's report. Once the leader has presented her report, she will receive comments or answer any questions from members on the matters raised in her report. Councillor Jeffrey.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I know members across the chamber will be moved by the heartbreaking events in the Middle East. In recent days, there have been tentative steps towards stopping the fighting, with a temporary ceasefire being put in place, hostages being released, Palestinians being released, and humanitarian aid getting through. I'm sure members will join with me in praying for an end to the violence and encouraging dialogue across the region to work towards finding a peaceful and lasting solution. The terrible events of the last few weeks make it even more poignant as a district come together for Remembrance Sunday. We remember those who have made great sacrifices for our country and for those who continue to do so. I felt this year when I saw across the district how many people had attended. I think people wanted to come together to do something to feel part of the community. And it certainly worked in Wakefield. There were thousands there, I know, in Castle and all of the smaller areas. People were there wanting to come together and to pay tribute on Remembrance Sunday. It's always a moving and important time of year, and it's important that we mark it. We've had the King's Speech and the Autumn Statement since we last met. They only serve to confirm to me and to my Labour group a government which has run out of ideas, that working for people continuing to pay the price of 13 years of failure. It's particularly important that in trust with politics is low, that we're straight with people. We need to be clear that we have an economy with low growth, the highest taxes since the Second World War, and millions of people unable to work due to cuts to public services, and to propose solutions to these issues. But the government have announced that they've called tax cuts, which actually gives people back a fraction of the money they've taken in increased taxes in 2019. At the same time, they're penciling in yet more cuts for local government and public services, which are already on the knees. People won't be fooled by any of this. Neither the King's Speech or the Autumn Statement addressed in the long-term challenges the country faces, and nothing in it will change the dire record of this government. There is nothing in the Autumn Statement to support local government. There are some acute pressures facing all councils, especially linked to inflation, and service demand is increasing. It's very disappointing the government isn't recognising this and coming forward with meaningful help. It's time for a change of approach and a genuine partnership between central and local government. This is essential. Whatever government comes next, this has got to happen. But despite that, Wakefield is in a better position than most. We're managing our finances responsibly and sustainably, making the difficult decisions we need to take to make sure we're fit for the future. We'll be coming forward with budget proposals shortly, and when we do, we'll welcome feedback from members about those. Making difficult decisions means we are able to continue to support residents right across the district. We know how hard things are with the cost of living, and it's continuing to rise, and with Christmas being an expensive time for all families. That's why we're continuing to maintain current levels of council tax support for people on low incomes, something we'll be discussing later on the agenda. And we know some people are very hesitant to turn on their heating as the weather grows colder, so we're providing free welcome spaces again this year. Welcome spaces are open to everyone and provide a warm, safe place where people can enjoy a hot drink, free activities and some company, something I'm sure my colleague Councillor Cummings will touch on in her update. Since our last meeting, we've continued our success in winning awards. Can you take note, Councillor Harvey? At the National Children and Young People's Awards, we won 3 awards for excellence in the care of children, young people and families. This builds on excellent results we've had from recent inspections of our children's homes, something I'm sure Margaret Isherwood will mention shortly. At the annual Institute of Economic Development Awards, I'm delighted that we won the Collaborative Initiative of the Year for our regeneration work with Talia North and Rutland Mills. We've just been awarded £5 million for health and to improve health for older people. £5 million over the next few years, which is a marvellous thing, and I do pay tribute to our officers who enabled us to win these awards. As we celebrate our successes, we're also making a series of changes to make the council stronger for the future. Members will know that we commissioned a detailed external investigation into what happened on the site of the former Featherstone Technology College. I gave a commitment at that time that we would have an independent report, and we have done. I said it would go to audit and governance, and it went there on Monday. We've learnt lessons from what happened. We're already taking forward the recommendations from the report at a pace so that it can't happen again, and so that our processes are as robust as they can be. I've spoken to the Chair of Audit and Governance, and she has assured me that it was taken very seriously at the meeting An action plan will be formulated, and that committee will be monitoring the situation on a regular basis. More widely, our work strengthens of our property facilities management arrangements is continuing. We're already pleased that our new partnership with Robertsons and Leeds started at the end of October. Robertsons are providing our facilities management function, and Leeds will handle our professional service functions. It's not something that we wanted to do. We would have preferred to have done everything in-house, but the timescales didn't allow us to do that, so we have done what we can. But this will be important to deliver services and provide money for our residents. And finally, there are a number of other areas which the Council is continuing to deliver for residents. I know my Cabinet colleagues will want to touch on some of these in more detail, but they include local development plan, which has now been formalised and endorsed by the Inspectorate and can now proceed to the final sign-off. The plan sets out how new housing developments will be delivered to provide the homes people need at the same time as protecting our environment. We've received 1.25 million from the Yorkshire Combined Authority to improve cycling and walking facilities in Castleford. We're continuing to modernise 6 of our markets as a 6.47 million investment programme. Members will have seen the refreshed branding which we're introducing while you've been out and about. We've also an enhanced offer to businesses. I'm very pleased that there's been a good take-up on startups. On the Green Wakefield, which I know Jack will be covering, we're holding a number of planting trees in December and January. I know that Jack has already been getting his boots dirty this week helping out. An amazing record is that we've planted since 2020 nearly 150,000 trees. What an achievement. And finally, as the year approaches fast for 2024, a big thank you to everyone who's been involved in planning our year, and I know Michelle will want to talk about that. The events that we've had over Christmas, the switch-ons, have been absolutely marvellous. The light installations, particularly at Pontefract Castle, were really marvellous. And it does help to make the district look more magical. So I hope everybody is able to enjoy the remote with that little bit of extra sparkle. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any comments or questions on Councillor Jeffrey's report? Councillor Harvey.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and thank you, Councillor Jeffrey. I am taking note, and I want to congratulate the officers for what we have achieved. But however, I also want to remind Councillor Jeffrey where the money coming from. The grant we have received, £5 million, is coming from this Conservative government. Okay? Council, in fact, you yourself said, in your own word, this government does care for this council. You have accepted and admitted as well. So let's not forget about that. The one I wanted you to take note for is the Wakefield Council data breach put mum and children at risk. So could you please explain to this council what have you done in this case? Thank you very much.
I'm not sure what you mean about putting mothers and children at risk. What do you mean? It's not in my portfolio. You have to ask the appropriate cabinet member.
Sorry, Councillor Jeffrey, I know this council's management is woeful at the moment, but I cannot believe you don't even know the case has been reported on BBC and Wakefield Express. Please, do you read any media or local mainstream media? Okay?
No, I'm sorry. Yes, I know about the case, but I'm not going to answer that. That is just nonsense. It has been dealt with, and I'm sure that you could ask our children's cabinet member if you need to know any more detail.
Councillor Sharp.
Yeah, thanks for these for your report. I just wanted to ask, has anybody within the council in terms of officer taken any responsibility or accountability for the loss of 2.6 million out of our budget? And if I was to lose 2.6 million pounds in the company that I was employed in and they have to take a loan out of £57,000 a year, I would be fired. So I don't have anybody taking responsibility for this. Thank you.
not suitable for this arena.
Thank you. Councillor Hayes.
May I just ask a question about the development plan? You say that you'll be submitting it. There were a consultation prior to reaching this point. Will you be submitting it with the main modifications that the inspector included, or will you be making alterations to reflect the views of residents that took part in the consultation? And I'm thinking especially about the 1,500 houses in Featherstone that were unwanted by the majority of the community.
No, the plan will go through as it went to the inspector. People's concerns were taken on board at the time, and the plan, excuse me, the plan will go forward now as it is. People can make objections when the planning applications come in.
Councillor Ahmed.
Just taking in an order of that, Councillor Sharp asked a question, and I think it was a valid question. There was no reason, unless it raises other questions, which we can all have speeches written for us, or sometimes some people write them themselves. And when somebody asks you a question, which then falls outside that area, you're either unable to answer, and the answer should be, I don't know the answer because I haven't read the report, or somebody else wrote my report for me that I'm reading out. Or the question was a very straightforward question, so I'll repeat the question, which was, has anybody been held accountable for the mistakes that were made that cost the council £2.6 million? That's a yes and no. There's no disclosure agreement or anything that prohibits the answer to that question. It doesn't, because it's not mentioning an individual's name, and it doesn't compromise any individual within the council chamber. So it can be answered, and if it can't be answered, then I want to know which legal paragraph is being used in order to make sure that it's not being answered. So I'm not asking for an individual's name, I'm not asking for a person's job title or anything like that. Has anybody been held accountable? Yes or no? That's the simple answer to that question in relation to that. It's a second independent inquiry which has cost thousands of pounds to the council and millions in relation to that. The second on your watch in there. Now, I said this in some councils back that mistakes do happen. The council is a big area, it's a massive budget. However, they can't just keep on happening all the time. We've done an inquiry now, and now we're going to take the actions on. How many inquiries are going to take before somebody says, yes, it has to end? It's the second one. The other ones that could go back in time while you've been a councillor, and other people have been councillors here as well. And I think it's important that those questions are addressed, because the council hold in trust public people's money, not our money. It's public taxpayers' money, which costs on average a household around 5% of their income. That's how much it costs a person here. We're talking about tax burdens. The council tax burden costs one of the lowest. Wakefield district has one of the lowest income categories across all the whole of West Yorkshire, for whatever reason that is. And that council tax burden costs them, and that money has been mismanaged on at least 2 minimum occasions in this council chamber that I'm aware of. Councillor Haynes has taken a lead of that in the audit committee and has mentioned that. And I'm not going to bring it up today, but it's not acceptable to not answer the question and hide behind certain facts in there. So I was going to bring other things up, but that does need to be answered in this council chamber, because elected members are supposed to hold each other account. I'm not here to give people, when something's right, I will say it's right, and I will hold that, but it's not a backslapping exercise how great we've done and how bad the government's done, because there will, at some point, somebody has to be held accountable. We can all sit there and laugh about it, but that's the seriousness of it.
I'm not capable of answering a question. I'm capable of answering any questions, but I've been advised legally that I cannot disclose what happened about who was accountable. It's gone to audit and governance, they've seen what's happening, and I'm not prepared to answer anything else, and you're just playing politics as usual.
Yeah, whatever.
Councillor Holmes, would you if you wanted to speak?
Sorry, I was engrossed. So, thank you very much for your report, Denise. council gone through other packets of land they may have and just checked that Steptoe Yard isn't underneath it?
Yeah, both these things that Nadine has mentioned were historically then. I know the Sandal Nagger and the Featherston Pole. You say under my watch, I picked them up. These were done in the past. But yes, Councillor Homewood, what I tried to allude to in my report was that we put measures in place. We have a new team running the corporate landlord team who are now checking to make sure that this doesn't happen again. And I'm sure that it won't. But you can never account for something going on, but I'm very hopeful that it won't, and that measures have been put in place. We have a new team of officers dealing with this. Thank you for your question.
Councillor Tully.
Yeah, can I just thank Councillor Jeffrey for her report and just ask for a brief comment and observations on the questions which were contained in the report, which we talked about with the open statement. And all the open statement, it has been said already, is put a couple of £100 in people's pocket, which is quite welcome. But it did nothing to address social care. It did nothing to address policing numbers. And it will leave councils like this and other councils scratching around for billions of pounds in savings, because they're going to find the savings from cuts to local authorities. Because I remember had two prime ministers ago, I think, that said we're going to run any deal on social care, and we still haven't seen it. And all of us this week and last week and next week will be attending as PAC meetings where as residents are complaining repeatedly about not enough police on the street and antisocial behaviour. We talk about it time and time again. And there was the thing in our autumn statement that address and will address what councils like this and others across the country are going to have to be doing going forward. Because the price of incompetence at a level that I've never seen in my political life is going to cost this council again millions of pounds in trying to plat forward. And I think we know that we've done this, it needs addressing, it needs dealing with. And as I heard a councillor from not a million miles away from me on time said last night, before we're not careful, councils will not be able to exist and will go financially bust because of a government that's not interested in what we're interested in and throwing fuel quid around, while the likes of us here is trying to platform day in, day out to try to make ends meet, to protect us elderly, to protect us vulnerable, and to protect us people on the streets. And I think when we hear comments about why have we done this and why have we done that, I think it's important that we get a grip and some perspective of where we need to be. And I'd ask the ladies' comments on the fact that we're going to be struggling going forward because their idea of the fuel bob cuts for short-term political gain will be to the detriment of this council and the people we represent.
Councillor Mayhew.
I note your comments on the opposition over the other side there, and maybe valid comments. I also note Councillor Jeffrey's comments about the overall stability of the council finances. And I think in certain circumstances, some situations might pay the councils. I don't feel that there is any concern about that with Wakefield Council. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor
Councillor Jeffries, your comments in regards to the Gaza issue are welcomed, and we join in praying for a permanent ceasefire. But it's a shame that our MP didn't support a permanent ceasefire, only supported a temporary ceasefire. Further, in regards to what
through incompetence. But I really cannot discuss officers. If you want to take that up with our legal officers, then you can do. But I'm not treating this lightly. It's terrible that we've lost money. And nobody minds it more than me. But I really can't discuss individual officers in the
Councillor Ames, you've already spoken, so you can't speak again. You've already spoken, so you can't speak again. Councillor Swift.
Thank you. I'm fully accepting the leader's comments that there are things about the Featherstone problems that we can't talk about yet. Everybody in this room has talked about it in the context of council officers, clearly questions. But it's quite clear that from even a cursory glimpse of what is a very short report that we've received, that a huge chunk of the problem lies within the people who this council has contracts with. Now, I'm not expecting answers on this, but except really an assurance that it's not just council officers getting it wrong that we're looking at, but that we're also looking at how people that we've been paid to deal with our affairs and whether they've done it properly or not. And one thing I think that can be said at this point, without prejudicing anything, is that I do hope that we've seen an end of this particular aspect of a botch outsourcing, because of all the things you can outsource, the last thing that anybody, any local authority should outsource, to be honest, is its land and property management.
Thank you. Agenda item 7 is to consider Cabinet Member reports. Cabinet members have up to 5 minutes to present their report, and there are further 15 minutes allocated to enable each Cabinet member to respond to any questions or brief comments on matters within their portfolio area. The first report is from Portfolio Hold for Climate Change and Environment. Councillor Hemingway, would you please introduce your report?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just before I move my report, I'd like to associate myself with the remarks made by the leader about the issue of remembrance celebrations in yourself, Madam Mayor. Really set celebrations, in particular the Festival of Remembrance of Wakefield Cathedral, which was absolutely fantastic, and a credit to all of us who organised such a good cause. In addition to my written report, I want to draw members' attention to a few items that have come in since it was published. So we've now launched our free tree giveaway. We've got 4,000 native trees that we're giving away on the Woodland Trust members of the public. We can choose what trees they want to collect. There's a whole range of options there. It's already heavily oversubscribed, but there are still some trees available. If you can encourage members of the public who might be interested in planting a tree in the garden to sign up for that on the council website. We've also had the news that the council, in addition to the rewards that Denise has mentioned earlier, we've been given an A rating by the Carbon Disclosure Project, which puts us amongst the highest performing global organisations on climate action. There's only 4 in the Yorkshire region that have received an A rating from the CDP. We're one of them, only 26 nationally, so that's a real credit to the climate team and all the work the councils and its partners are doing on climate action. Similarly, we've had some really good news about our parks. So we've been putting a significant amount of investment in recent years into our public parks and open spaces, and that's shown in our latest annual satisfaction survey. Public satisfaction is up by 20% in 2 years in our parks. So it's really good news that people are recognising and seeing that improvement, and will continue to keep that going in future years. And then lastly, we've just secured some funding for additional electrical recycling banks. Our partner Renewing and another organisation called the Electrical Recycling Fund got £33,000 to open some additional electrical recycling banks. So there's about 28 locations around the district, and that's for things that are smaller than a microwave, which needs to go to perhaps a waste centre, but things like batteries, phones, kettles, anything smaller than a microwave basically. So with Christmas coming up and people like to get lots of new electricals, please do encourage people to recycle, and the full list will be on the council website. And I'll leave it at that.
Are there any questions or brief comments on the report? Councillor Shah.
Hi, Jack, thanks for your report. Concerning the wide WCA community grants for climate activity, this is actually like a really good grant scheme that is available for, say, village halls, church halls, community centres, etc. How long is this running for and how much money is in the pot? So what I mean by that is, have we literally got, say, £1 million and then once that £1 million is gone, it's gone, or how? Because it doesn't really say, that's all. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor Shire. So this is a scheme through the combined authority. It's about £250,000 in the first tranche, but the intention is this is a sort of pioneer fund, so it works, and it is already quite heavily subscribed from applications, that hopefully additional funding will come through from Wicker for more community groups that are interested. So while the application, I think applications are still open, but I'll get the exact details for you. It's £250,000 in the first pot, but what we're saying is to any groups that are interested, even if the deadline for the first round is passed, get in touch with an expression of interest. And the very last future rounds that we can put in touch with the funding. So if you've got any groups in your ward that might be interested, let me know.
Sorry, just clarification, Malcolm, sorry. Yeah, just correct. So the 250 grand that you've got has gone, and you're hoping that another pot will come into play. Is that clear? Sorry, it's not clear, sorry.
Thank you, Madam. So there's £250,000 in the first tranche. It's heavily subscribed. It's not been distributed yet, so there is still money in the pot, but it's likely to have already been allocated to groups. But there will be future rounds of funding that are coming.
Sorry, Madam Mayor, that one, please.
Councillor Gate.
Yeah, Jack, I'd like to thank you for the free trees. I think that was a good project. Unfortunately, I was unlucky. Even though I applied, I thought quite speedily, I didn't get one. And I think it was all the fruit trees that went first. Am I right in thinking that? So the question to you really is, will the council be planning on doing this in future years? Based on what you learned from this time, will you adjust how many trees you have each time next time?
Thank you, Madam. Yeah, it's a fair point, Councillor Gate, and fully accepted. I think we didn't know what the response would be when we first set this up, and we thought 4,000 might actually be a lot to get out. Around the country, there are other organisations, other councils have done this with the Woodland Trust. Most opted for 4,000, thinking that would be enough. I think only Edinburgh Council went for 9,000, but we definitely want to do this again. It's been a real hit, real success. What we've seen as well is some applications that come in not for individuals, but for communities to get together. So 10 people have come in for an orchard on a bit of green space. Where people do want trees, still get in touch with us. We'll see what we can do. Most of the fruit trees, if not all, have gone now. So there are still non-fruit trees available, but we will definitely look to do future rounds next year.
Councillor Ames.
With your decarbonisation of heavy-duty vehicles, will your present budget allowance cover the total regeneration of the fleet, or will it have to be done over a period of years? And would you get it done in time to meet your target? And what percentage of your budget would be devoted to replacement of each truck?
Thank you, Madam. Well, heavy goods vehicles have always been through those chambers a difficult challenge when it comes to decarbonisation. There's not one clear solution for how we get those away from diesel and petrol at the moment. We do look at getting Euro 6, which is the highest petrol standard, but what we've been doing is rather than jump feet first in a solution that might not work or might not lead to service performance ensured, we've been doing extensive trials. We've had an electric bin wagon which we've trialled, looking at various options, alternative fuels as well as EV. So when we've identified a solution we think will work for Wakefield, and first and foremost do the actual job that we need it to do for the public, be that a gritter or a bin lorry, then we'll go with that solution. The funding we've got at the moment is a general reserve. It wouldn't cover the cost of converting all those vehicles. We'd have to come back in for fresh capital. Hopefully government at some point will look at grants for that. I know with some of the legislative changes that they've implemented, it will put a significant burden on local authorities and require significant new amounts of bin vehicles to be acquired with some of the waste consistency changes. So that might be an opportunity to use some of that funding to leverage into green HGV. So we're looking at a various range of options. We've not committed to any one yet. I think that's the right thing to do until we know which one's the best option.
The next is portfolio holder for children and young people. Councillor Isherwood, would you introduce your report to council?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. First of all, I'd like to congratulate the staff who received the awards, the recent National Children and Young People Awards. But I'd also like to thank all staff working within the Children's Services who do such an excellent job all across the service. The leader did mention the children's zones, which are receiving outstanding and good awards from Ofsted. I think we need to look at that model, which is now being called the Wakefield Way, and we are actually having people from other authorities coming to us to look for how they can do a similar thing with their children's homes. The children there are so settled, it makes such a difference to the way they live, and the outcomes for them are so absolutely amazing. So yes, I'm very proud of the children's homes as well. In relation to the question from Councillor Abbey to the leader, there were recommendations which came from the officer, the Information Commissioner's Office. We have followed all the recommendations, and the Information Commissioner's Office is quite happy that we are fulfilling the duties that we need to do and to ensure that this doesn't happen again. Finally, I want to congratulate all our children and young people, parents, carers, school staff who've helped to make the education department the work across the education and the results there and the success so good for this year. And with that, I move my report on that.
Thank you. Are there any questions or brief comments on the report? Councillor Rowley.
Can I just say, I attended the music service in event last Friday night in a very, very cold cathedral, but it was a fantastic evening as usual. About 7,000 young people a week go through the music service, and it really is a fantastic experience. But what I'm going to say is I was reading in the newspaper yesterday how music is declining all over the country in schools. And it's so sad. The money is not being spent in that direction. Culture is so important to us all, and the experiences of the young people are so significant. And yet it's so sad that in fact will we have musicians of the future, because not only is the budget an issue locally, nationally, but also every opportunity is declining. And I find it really, really sad. But it was a great celebration, and I'd like to congratulate everyone involved.
I have to agree with you, absolutely, with what you say. Unfortunately, I couldn't attend last Friday. I usually do attend because they are an absolutely amazing event. And I totally agree with you, we should be able to spend more money on music because it's such a vital part of a child's life, not opinion, and it gives them so much more as well.
Councillor Scott.
Thank you. I attended the Care Leaders Achievement Evening at the mill at the time we are, and it was an absolutely fabulous success. The young people there were brilliant. I spoke to a number of them. They really enjoyed themselves. And when I spoke to them, one young person was going to go to university to learn to be a doctor. Another one was going to go to university to learn how to be a
Councillor Abbott.
Councillor Isherwood, in regards to the awards, huge congratulations to you and the entire team. Very well done.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. We'll now move on to the portfolio holder of communities, poverty and health. Councillor Cummins, would you please introduce your reports, Councillor?
Yeah, thank you, Madam Mayor. Just a few things to pick up on the portfolio. If I could just first of all thank our partners at the Community Foundation for once again giving us £25,000 to help tackle fuel poverty across the district. I think this is the third year that they've raised this funding for us, and it's gone to our energy team, and it will be used throughout the winter months to help those families that are struggling. I also want to say, and pick up on something that the leader said, and that is about the welcome spaces. Michelle and myself have been in the library prior to coming here, speaking to some of those people that actually use the library to go in to have a cup of tea or a cup of coffee. And one particular lad, Craig, told us he goes there because he feels safe, nobody hassles him, he gets a cup of tea, and for the first time he's read a book. So it's absolutely fantastic, is that. Somebody raised with me earlier this week about the flow jabs. Normally the council will offer those who are not eligible a flow jab. We usually do it prior to the council meeting. We will be doing it in January if anybody is interested in having a flu injection that's not already eligible through the because of age or health reasons. Finally, I want to thank Jack. He's gone. Bless him. But I'd like to thank Jack and Gary Blenkinsop and his team, because once again this year, with the big calendars, you'll see them coming through your door. We've had our cost of living support leaflet delivered. Over 160,000 have gone out, and it does give information about where residents can get support, whether it be around housing, energy, water, money matters or winter wellness. And as I say, I really would like to thank Jack, but he's not here, but I will thank him, and Gary Blenkinsop and his team for getting this out. With that, I'm on my report and happy to take it up, finally. And I did put it in my report. I would like to wish all members in here, staff and officers a very Merry Christmas and a happy and healthy New Year.
Thank you. Are there any questions or brief comments on the report? Councillor Abbott.
Just to raise something, I won't expect an answer now. We'll look into it, please. As many councillors in this chamber are aware, Wakefield Street Kitchen is a charity that serves our community tirelessly. They're on the brink of closure, sadly. Personally, I've assisted them with about 20% of the amount they need within my means. So I'm just wondering whether you may be able to look into that and whether there's anything that can be done. Thank you.
Yeah, timely you brought that up. We've had a full day network meeting this morning. I was aware of the situation, I have to say. We've got the Housing Support Fund grant going to them within the next 7 days, and that's quite a healthy amount of money. And I know that Leslie's been approached to try and help with premises, so I'm fully aware of it, and I will be on top of it. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Councillor Cummins. The next report is a portfolio of culture, leisure and sport. Councillor Collins, would you please introduce your report to Council?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yeah, I'll just move my report briefly just by with a few thank yous really. So thank you to all of the officers and staff that have made the light events that have happened over the last sort of London and coming up in September. An absolute wonderful time. I was down there with Elves and Jack and Jill Frost on stilts in Wakefield. There's been some fabulous events across the district. And I think it's really gathering that momentum as what is going to be our year 2024. We don't often sort of see what goes on behind the scenes in that, and I was there with officers till sort of late at night in the freezing cold that have been there all morning, making sure that things run smoothly. I think we just need to place on record a massive thanks to them. And just by including, just by talking about our year 2024, I have launched, I'm going to be launching sort of regular updates to all members of what the plans are, what's going to happen, what's coming up. I think by now, if not most, if not all, councillors should have met with officers you know, culture is very different for all different communities. It's not about the council saying this is what you need. It's about us all coming together to allow everybody in the district the opportunity to partake in cultural leisure activities, whatever that means to them. And with that, we move on to see if there's any questions.
Thank you. Are there any questions or brief comments on the portfolio? Councillor Street.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'd just like to say thank you to Councillor Collins for the work of our excellent museum service. I was really delighted to read about the work that the service is doing with the use of the Castle Academy to introduce them to the work of the very progressive and influential art teacher Alice Gostick. Alice Gostick, I think, has been forgotten in recent years, so it's really good to see a revival of her legacy. And I think it's important that we all remember that. I actually think that without Alice's influence, Henry Moore's career might not have taken the line that it did. And it's just wonderful to see that she's being recognised, and thank you for that. I'm really looking forward to our year in the future.
Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Collins. Next is the portfolio holder for planning and highways, Councillor Morley. Would you like to present the report of the council?
Is that Matthew or Michael?
Michael.
Sorry, so I'm sure you'll get me play time on that one. Thank you, Madam Mayor. Not much to add to my report, just not long after the last council meeting, we've seen the storm that hit the district. I just want to pay tribute to all the council staff from around, from street scene, from highways, from the contact centre, who's the face of it all, who were taking all the complaints. The council did come together as one, supported so many residents with sandbags and everything else. I think it was a testament to how the council works when we have these events. So a massive thank you to all of them, Madam Mayor, on that. And with that, I'd like to take any questions or comments.
Thank you. Councillor Carrington, please.
Thank you. Councillor Morley, I just want to thank you for implementing the crossing in Wakefield on Wakefield Road in Aqua. We've waited for it for so many years now, and we're so happy that it's been delivered. I know we've had a bit of kickback on a certain group of individuals, but the majority of residents I've spoken to are really grateful to see it. So thank you for that. I also want to pay thanks to Paul Madison and Rob Fife and their colleagues for helping with the ongoing flooding situation down at Wakefield. Obviously, we've started investigation work, we've got a long road ahead of us, but things are moving in the right direction. So, working alongside them has been really, really good, and I just want to put that on the record. Thanks to them.
Yeah, Councillor Carrington, thank you for being a great champion for Low Aqua, for making sure that work got done. They promised that happened in the past. You've been supporting them. As for the crossing, yes, obviously there was some confusion, was going to be a pelican and a zebra. At the end of the day, we put a new crossing in there. It's safer for the residents on Wakefield Road, and we have got commitments to a further crossing down there, which we will give you details in due course.
Thank you. Councillor Massey.
Yes, I'm going back to the crossing at Ashworth. There was a petition from 2,000 residents what house for a puffing crossing. It would be nice to have in the report why it was downgraded to a zebra crossing, because I'm getting a lot of feedback saying they really wanted a puffing crossing because of the disability of the residents within Ashworth.
I hope your legs are all right now, the right trip you're doing there, Councillor Massey, it's unbelievable respect. When we did meet on site earlier on this year, he was quite supportive, he understood why it couldn't be a puffy crossing, it had to be a zebra, for the limitations we had. There was space down there, he was more than happy with it, he walked away and shook my hand. Thank you so much for all the work you've done, to myself and Martin Barnes, and then within a couple of hours, no, we've got to have a puffing. Well, it's quite, we explain time and time again to yourself, to the residents, to the petition, to the MP, to all members who couldn't think any puffing crossing there, there's diameters. It's the sidelines we need, that's why it has to be a zebra, it's a safer, we're not taking anything away from the area, we made the area safer by putting that crossing in, we have given commitment to an additional crossing in further down as well.
Councillor Medford.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I just want to thank Councillor Wally for coming out to Normanton a few weeks ago. I know we took you on quite a trail around the town, so thank you, and I'd like to thank you for all the time you did spend with us and for being willing to go to all the places we took you to. We know that some issues are still to resolve, but thank you for looking at them.
It's always a delight to go to Normanton at any time of the day. It was nice to be out with you. Yes, some of the issues wasn't highways, but as usual, we'll always pick them up and try and help and support. So I know there's some corporate landlord issues there that I don't think it's about, but we're always happy to go out and visit people who know more. So thank you for that.
Councillor Tully.
On the issue of the storm response, I would ask, without making any political point, that I think everybody across the district would welcome the gully machine, or the gully man, or the gully where we call it, to come and do some gully cleaning. I think that's an integral part of making the system work. I've got vegetation growing out of some of my gullies that's been growing out over years, and I just think if we can look, I know it's all about money, it's all about how we do things, but I think we can get the bits right in his own streets, we can get the gullies clean, it gives us half a chance. There's nothing worse when you've got a torrential downpour and you've got gullies that's overrun because water won't go down, because they're full of vegetation, full of coal, full of building material, full of everything now what should be doing. And on the issue of the crossings, I mean, I'm pleased we've managed to deal with one in Agworth, and I think everybody could make the case for a crossing, a Paddington crossing, or whatever we call them these days, in their own ward. Having met with the police and crime commissioner a week and a bit ago, I got the impression talking to her that the rules around, well, there's not been a death, there's not been a major serious injury now, and not the precursor for saying that we can't have one because it is creating a lot, whether it's speed cameras, whether it's any road safety measures, and I loud and clear from the police and crime commissioner, I know that we can follow that we can look at putting some serious road safety measures in place without hitting the first hurdle that we always hit, well, the anybody being killed at the end, anybody being seriously injured. Well, I'm in business and making sure nobody gets killed seriously injured, and make a case as to why we ought to have it. I'm just going to say about sideline, and to be this or that or the other. But I just think we need to take that on board going forward with road safety measures, whether it's in my ward or anybody's ward across the 20 wards across the district.
Thank you, Steve. 2 points well made. When it comes to gully cleansing, clearing, a number of years ago, just as I come onto the council, under the budget cuts we had to do through austerity, we went down from 15 years to 2, a risk-based approach on that. It's basically just getting round the gritting routes, not giving a lot of extra capacity in there, so we are working to get that third vehicle back out. We need it, definitely need it, to get around and do more gully clearing and cleansing, so I'll give you a show that's something we are looking towards. When it comes down to Vision Zero, as you mentioned there, the Deputy Mayor's announced, yes, we are looking at the approach of how we tackle safety on our roads. The problem is there's not a lot of extra funding just with that. So what I say to anybody with any schemes or what you want to do with crossing or safety 20 mile an hour, if it's got the support of the community and you've got some support from the community, next to us, we'll definitely look at it. And we may not be implemented next year, it may be the year after. We'll always try to implement any sort of schemes. So if it's got support from the community, because time and time again people come to the TRO, 20 mile an hour things. We've got a consultation on it, which just costs money, and it's not supported by the community. So I hope after you've got some people support to start with, it makes our life a bit easier there.
Councillor Rose.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. First of all, comment on agenda page 45 on the carriage railway services. Could I pass on to Matthew, to the teams and the contractor involved, the great work that they did on this road, very demanding amount of traffic that is on this road and going up to the M1, and they did a fantastic job. same time, what we want to do is look to the provision, if possible, through this consultation, to show that there is a need for it within Wakefield City. We have, as you all know, lost some of our town centre footfall in terms of the issue about car parking, because of the free car parking that's around other outlets, particularly in Leeds. And being as we're spending through the regeneration process and evolving the city centre, I think if something like this was to be part of the future provision, it would actually encourage more footfall into Wakefield and the use of the shops and more shop spaces to be taken up. So I look forward to being part of that consultation, and hopefully we're going to have a benefit from it through the Highways Programme and the councillors and staff here. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Harvey.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Councillor Morley, recently West Yorkshire Combined Authority has returned more than £7 million of transport levy to this council. The money was collected to submit to the Combined Authority in the first place from this council, but however, no scheme has delivered anything for us. So I just want to, on behalf of the resident, I'd like to know whether Councillor Morley can guarantee that this money will be spent on road safety improvement, like places like West Breton, and also to improve the bus service as well in the Liverpool rural area. Thank you.
Councillor, looking at all schemes with the money that we get from the Combined Authority, and also internal budgets, about any sort of safety schemes, resurfacing. We'll do the annual capital programme like we normally do, and that should be going to Cabinet February, March time.
Councillor Cummins.
Yeah, thank you. I just want to say a massive thank you to the team. When we had the excessive rain, they actually went out to see a lady in my ward, 84 years old. They were out within half an hour. They had to sweep the water out of her conservatory and place the sandbags, and actually refused a cup of tea because they were going on to somebody else. So I don't know the names, but pass it on to the team from the lady in my ward.
I think it just goes to show that our staff go above and beyond the call of duties, and little things like that makes a massive difference to people. So what we get for our council, and then the stories will show you how fantastic team do. So I have always said that more, but thank you very much for that.
Councillor
I welcome the 7 crossing, 14 crossing, and I don't know 2 weeks to be honest with you. We welcome any, call it what you want, but we welcome them outside Kirsten Park, which has been, probably people who don't know, it's constantly bombarded with lorries coming down there. And the department has, to be fair, sent someone out and said that the big difficulty is the sight lines. Just moving on to car parks, we've got the biggest car park in Wakefield district, and I'm very pleased to say it's free of charge as well. It's called the A645 Wakefield Road, and even the leader herself, she tried to get through Featherstone on the Saturday. It took her an hour just to get through Featherstone. So maybe the officers could pay us a visit to let's see if we can do something to try and get the traffic moving on there, because it's really appalling. I think future issues coming to this council will probably hinder that rather than improve it.
It's a busy.
Councillor Lichtenstone.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I think everybody in this chamber today realises that to get a vibrant town centre economy thriving, we need parking spaces within the city for people to come into the city and go out of the city. Last week I too attended the West Side Youth Orchestra in the Cathedral, and at 6:30 at night I filled the last place in the Northwood car park. Today I left home at 12:30 to get to this prime meeting and this meeting today. The Northwood car park was full. I tried the County Hall car park, I tried the Cheapside car park, and full. I travelled down Marshway and then came back up and I decided to park in Whiteways. This is a Wednesday dinner time. I parked in Whiteways and walked in. I saw 2 spaces in the car park. I also noticed on Richard Street, we started parking cars again. There's a demand for city centre parking within Wakefield city centre. And I would like Matthew to understand that I can walk it faster than sometimes I can find a car.
30 seconds left.
Sorry?
30 seconds left.
30 seconds. So, Matthew, I'd like you to understand, and I know we've got a meeting tomorrow in Chimes Room, that's we're attending, I'm talking to Martin Barnes, but the city centre needs parking spaces. Definitely needs them if we're going to have a vibrant city centre and an economic city centre. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you.
You should have tried the new Westgate station, Stu. It's now open up and running. There's spaces down there. There's also the Borough, the Bristol Street car park. Seeing as the response haven't moved on, started there, that has been reopened up again. The parking strategy will look at the car park spaces all across, not just the council-owned ones, but obviously Trinity and also the riders, the private providers as well. And we look at all, if a multi-storey car park is needed, we can fund that, that's something that we'll have in the future. So we are looking at car parking, and not just for Wakefield, for all the 5 towns and everywhere else where we look at car parking.
Thank you, Councillor Marley. I'm sorry, time's up, Councillor Gibbs, sorry. The portfolio order for regeneration and economic growth. Councillor Gray, would you please introduce your report to Council?
Thank you, Mayor. First of all, I'd like to join the leader in congratulating the Regen team for their recent awards from the Institute for Economic Development. I think a lot of people have already mentioned Tally North and some of the great events that will happen down there. Obviously, world-class facility down there, great venue, and a massive well done to the team and everyone else who's working on that project. It's not finished yet, there's still more to come, but it is proven to be a huge success. Secondly, I'd like to pick up on the market investment that the leader also mentioned in their report. So we are investing over 6 million in markets, and I think it's safe to say the markets right across our district hold very fond memories for a lot of people, and they mean a lot to people. They're an integral part of our towns and of our high streets, and we want them to thrive, we want them to continue and attract new audiences. A lot of the work that's been going on is behind the scenes. It is sort of hard to see what's happened because it involves heating and infrastructure and the building itself. But one of the recent changes that we are making is around the whole branding, so the new identity. We had a consultation on the new identity for markets, and you'll see, but going across right across the district, the new branding, the gazebos, the advertising of the markets as well, and the results speak to themselves. The markets are starting to reach capacity, and traders are really happy. Footfall's increasing. So, you know, we're always going to have little problems here and there, but I think the team are really pulling together and really making really great changes. I've had some amazing feedback from the public, from elected members, from the leader around the events the market team's putting on as well. So the crazy golfing loss here, the pumpkin carving right across our 6 markets. And they've got so much more planned for Christmas as well. Elf workshops showing Christmas films, and putting across to the public that you can buy an entire Christmas dinner at the Wakefield market. So showing you where to get each item. So just a shout out to thank you for the traders for sort of putting up with all the work. It hasn't been easy for them, and I hope everyone can encourage the whole of the public to get out there, support them and help them to thrive. With that, Madam Mayor, move the report and happy to take any questions.
Thank you. Are there any questions or brief comments on the report? Councillor Ames.
Thank you, Lady. Councillor Graham, the last time I asked you a question about Featherstone swimming boats, the reply was that mistakes had been made, and that precipitated an external inquiry. This was published regeneration. How come we?
It's property. So it's council shop.
Oh, I lost Councillor. Sorry about that, Councillor.
Are there any questions or brief comments from Councillor Graham? Councillor Harvey.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Councillor Graham, I understand over £60 million investment in the market is really not a mere number. So, is there any feasibility plan before this money has been invested, and how do you actually assess the success of this investment of taxpayer money of £60 million?
Thanks, Sam. And it's a really good question. We don't just want to throw money at anything. Obviously, we have baseline impact assessment on what exactly the footfall is, for example, what the void rates are of the market. So there's material things you can assess there in terms of how well the markets are doing, you can see it. But there's also there's sort of something that you can't really put a label on. You know, are our cities and towns thriving? Are they nice places for people to come? Are people happy with the market offered and what traders we've got there? So there's a whole host, and we'll see across the next year or two, you know, what impact that has. In terms of the indoor market, it's really simple. If we don't invest in the heating and in the infrastructure, etc., then the markets don't exist. They can't operate. So it's either open or closed. So really easy to see the impact in that sense. But I think it's a decent question in terms of how will we actually record it, and I'll hope to report back to the full council, you know, in a year's or a couple of years' time, and say these are the successes that will happen, this is what hasn't worked as well. Thanks.
Councillor Rhodes.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. On agenda page 54, the assistance from the age to build new homes. Obviously, these are much needed across the district. And I note that section 106 money has been supporting this venture. And on page 55, it speaks about affordable homes, a further 161 affordable homes. That's good news. Could you let us know, Michael, what percentage of the total building programme is going to be dedicated to what we would call in terms of affordable homes? Because sometimes the affordability in terms of the cost of housing now is still outside the realms of a lot of people. Nationally, we're not alone in this. Nationally, this is happening all over the place. So what percentage in terms of the planning application or any consultation with the 106 money has enabled how many homes or what we would call affordable even rent value to be dedicated within this scheme?
Councillor Pickersgill.
Yes, Madam, just to add, the area that Councillor Rhodes has asked about, actually one of the key things for the Regeneration Scrutiny Committee, we're looking at the issue of social housing, what's happened on things like viability assessments, reducing the numbers of units that are actually being produced on normal developments, what's being done to fill the gap, etc. So I think so we're looking to sort of have quite a deep dive in terms of that.
Thank you. Councillor Tully.
Yeah, and just kind of on the issue of the markets to Councillor, I think at times we've got to take our market stall owners, which sometimes it's a long time, need to come with us. Because every time we try to inject and looking at doing something a little bit different, i.e. doing a flea market or something else on a non-market day, they kick up that they've been out on it because they're obviously elsewhere, as it is. And another related issue, when we have our annual light switch on, we use some of the market stalls for charities and other people. And some of the market traders were saying, you know, they're not invited to come along, and I think it's an opportunity. And it's only one night in a year, but it's an opportunity for these people to be there, like there are other market traders, to come along, as well as the people that we invite and pay a few quid to a charity to set up a stall. But the difficulty I have with them sometimes is that they're very much like these people that they've got a skyscraper it free for 6 months, and why can't they have theirs free? If you don't offer somebody a stall for a discounted price for a few months at a fiver, as opposed to 10 day pay, there's all the other places to do there. They've got to come with us if they want us to improve and invest the money, because there's people in my part of the world thinking it's probably not the best investment in the world. They've got to come along with us and be able to work with the authority to make it work and to modernise these markets going forward.
Yeah, I totally agree with you on that, Steve. I think it'd be good if everyone would come along. Obviously, some people are reluctant and adverse to change a little bit, and it's difficult, but I think the vast majority of traders, you know, are happy to see the changes, and they do want to come along, so I thank them for that. I think on the markets for Christmas, I think it's always a sticky point, because I think specialty markets lie in the shelf portfolio, and then you've got the regular markets in line. And what we try and do is have a sort of a new offer at Christmas, and selling Christmas goods. And all traders and the goods they sell probably aren't suitable, but there should be that joint up thinking, and there should be that opportunity for our regular traders to benefit from that increased footfall as well. So definitely something that I'd like to strengthen across both portfolios, and I hope to do so for next year.
Thank you, Councillor Graham. Final Cabinet Member report is that of the portfolio holding of resources and property. Councillor Shaw, can you please introduce your report to Council?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. First of all, can I say a big thank you to you before? Can I say a big thank you to you for attending the opening of the new Coroner's Office? It was quite enlightening to walk around that building. I've been in the old building a number of times, and I've obviously seen the upgrade, but it is a thank you to you, and it did boost that afternoon. Can I pick up on that in my report? I think it's really important that a number of years ago, anybody who went down to the old Coroner's Office, and some of the facilities in there for everything from jurors right to disabilities, and a lot of the office, it just wasn't suitable for purpose. I can say now that it's one of the best around this country, and thank you, and a big thanks to the staff and the people who made that possible within our area. And people from Leeds came along, because it's not just for Wakefield, it covers Leeds as well. And people from Leeds came along, and they thought it was tremendous, the work that had been put in. And I can say, for the coroner, he's really overwhelmed, and the staff in there can't believe the difference in the facilities and the deliverability of this area, both Wakefield, Leeds and the district. So thanks to everybody concerned, because it really is a bonus for this area. I just wanted to pick up on the first part of my report about Robertson and Leeds. We've touched upon that. I've been involved in a number of movements in companies before, and I can say once again that the work and effort that we put in to bring in Robertson's and Leeds and incorporate them within our staff as well, because they're working alongside our staff, which has made a big difference on some of the things and some of the ways we operate. To do it in the time scale we did it, to work with the schools and to work with Robertson's, Leeds and the outgoing group, Equans, right? It was fantastic to achieve it in the time scale that we did. And I can say it's worked a lot smoother than what we anticipated. So once again, congratulations to everybody that were involved in that. And already we're reaping the rewards on some of the things that we've been talking about earlier on in this council chamber. So thanks once again to everybody, and with that, I'll move on.
Thank you, Councillor Shaw. Are there any questions or comments on the report? Councillor Ames.
Well, we seem to have had an interlude or a commercial break there. I've now got the right one, I suppose. We've had an external inquiry into the drainage of Featherstone swimming flats. We now know that mistakes were made, and we now know the extent of the mistakes that were made. It appears that there was confusion between external partners and internal officers on whose responsibility it was to provide vital paperwork before this sale could progress. It comes down to the answer we were given that what happened because we couldn't find the document. Now, a lot of recommendations have been made, and depending on the success of those recommendations, there is a distinct possibility that this vital document that can prove that we have right of drainage for the facilities that were already there and been there since 1970 or have a right to continue draining across that land. Now, in the event that you manage to retrieve this document, will you pursue, or can you promise this council that you will pursue an attempt to reclaim that 2.6 million from this developer? Oh, sorry.
We've discussed, obviously, that in great detail already. There's two things on what you've picked up. First of all, the report is out there that it's being done by, I understand, by the audit committee. So that's on the report, right? If anything comes to light on the back of that report, on the back of any investigations, then we'll certainly look at them and we'll see how we take them forward at that time.
Councillor Spade.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Perhaps as Chair of the Governance, I ought to say for candidates who don't know that the committee did consider the report earlier this week. And we considered it very seriously because it's a serious issue. So lots of questions were asked and we even had the opportunity to question the author, the independent author of the report. Consequently, we adopted all the recommendations that were in the report, and in addition to that, we have to have oversight of the action plan that will fall out of the report so that we can, as a committee, then check that all the progress is being made. And I hope that gives some reassurance in terms of the action plan.
Thank you. Councillor Shaw.
Thank you. Just wanting to get clarification on a point with regards to the Wakefield registration service for deaths and marriages. I got married in 2020 and there was only an option for me to come to the Wakefield Town Hall to register my intent to get married. It says here, customers have the ability to access services at a time from a location most convenient to them. What other locations have we got that can authorise the intent for people to marry or register a birth or a death? Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Shaw. I'll get you a list and I'll make sure you get informed. All right. I'll give you a list of the locations.
Councillor Scott.
Yeah, I'd like to say thank you for the workforce volunteering policy. I've been in school for about 35, 40 years, a long time. And this, when I worked for the council, this was involved, and it allowed me to go to meetings during the day and get paid while volunteering. I think this is a fantastic resource for all staff and for the community out there, for people to be able to get involved in their community. Thank you.
Councillor Shaw, would you like to come back?
Thanks for that. I think it really is important. It's fantastic. It's a build-up. There are a lot of volunteers groups around Wakefield, we all know, and this shows that we really want to lead it as well. We definitely want to lead it. We want to show everybody who's volunteering that we really take it seriously. So I really welcome it as well. Thanks for your comments.
Thank you, Councillor Shaw. And that concludes the Cabinet Member reports. Agenda item 8 is a report which seeks approval of the Council Tax Support Scheme for 2024-25. Is the report moved? Is the report seconded? Are there any questions in relation to the report? Are there any comments? All in favour? Any against? Any abstentions? That's carried. Agenda item 9 is a report providing information on Treasury management activities in the 6 months and includes the proposed investment strategy for 2024-25 in advance of the approval report to the Cabinet and Budget Council in February 2025. Is the report moved?
Move it.
Is the report seconded? Any questions in relation to the report? Any comments? All in favour? Any against? Any abstentions? That's carried. Agenda item 10 is questions on notice, details of which are set out in the Council agenda. The first of the questions received is from Councillor Gert. Councillor Morley, would you please reply to the question?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just to refresh members, Cabinet approved in the 21-22 IBIS programme to improve verge management works. IBIS carried out methodology how we will do this for a sizable benefit from verge management. We identified a long list of 57 schemes. For the Nottingham Ward, Garden Lane, Vale Walk and the Island was all identified. I know that Councillor Gert, in his initial question, states that neither he nor his colleagues have seen any verge management item in their ward. The fourth scheme is the England Lane scheme. That was completed in October of this year. We've still got the 57 schemes. We'll work our way down them, Madam Mayor, while the funding lasts, and they'll be delivered over the next coming year's programme. There's £500,000 there to do them sort of work, so that's where we are.
Thank you. Council procedure rules entitle the questioner to one supplementary question, but it must arise directly out of the original question posed or the reply given. Councillor Gert, do you have a supplementary question?
Yeah, whereabouts in England's Lane is I'm not aware of it.
Unfortunately, Councillor, I don't know every street in every part of the ward. I know like the back of my hand. I would expect you as the local member to know your ward like that way, like I do my ward. So that is what I've been told by how the work is carried out. I suggest you go and check. If you have an issue, please come back to us.
Thank you, Councillor Morley. The second question is from Councillor Homewood and is to the portfolio holder, resources and property. Councillor Shaw, would you please reply to the question?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Councillor Homewood, thanks for bringing this to Council, this question. It's something I picked up myself when it was announced that Welcome to Yorkshire was reported to owe 75% more to creditors than it additionally projected. I need a brief moment to remind colleagues across this chamber that in September of 2020, Cabinet took a decision to withdraw funding from Welcome to Yorkshire. So I am pleased to be able to reassure Councillor Homewood and Councillor colleagues all across this chamber that the Council does not have any outstanding debt with Welcome to Yorkshire, and there will be no financial implications for the Council or our residents within the district. We'd already done it.
Councillor Holmwood, do you have a supplementary question?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. No, I think that question's been answered, but I'd just like to congratulate the council leader on having the good sense not to pour any money into a sinking ship. Well done.
Thank you. Our final question on notice is from Councillor Harvey and is to the portfolio holder for regeneration and economic development. Councillor Graham, could you please reply to the question?
Yeah, thank you. Councillor Harvey, HMOs do have an important role, I think, but I also have concerns about HMOs, as I'm sure our elected members do, and some of the problems that they can bring up, such as parking, such as the quality of the home itself, and also the fact that they're taking up homes that could otherwise be used for families. So I think it is an important issue. When I took over this portfolio, it was one of the first things that I looked into, and I asked us to go away and look into licensing and what all we could do to monitor that. Myself, Councillor Morley, Councillor Hemingway had several meetings around this issue, and what we found was to actually bring in additional licensing in addition to the mandatory licensing we already do, you have to meet certain thresholds, and in Wakefield district we don't meet those thresholds. You said in your question that there's been an increase in the last year. There's been a relatively small increase. There's only been 11 more HMOs this year, which brings the total to 775 right across the district. So in terms of percentages, that wouldn't get us into a place where we need. You also have to show that you've done as much as you can as an authority to tackle certain issues or certain problems that there are in the specified neighbourhood before you bring in that extra licensing. And a final point would be that it is extremely resource intensive, so it will be, if we put money into that, it gets put elsewhere. So I hope that clearly explains that we have looked into it. It is an important issue on the side of the chamber as well, but I will be moving ahead at this time with that sort of licensing.
Thank you. Councillor Harvey, do you have a supplementary question?
Thank you for the answer, Madam Mayor. But can I just ask Council to have a constant review or regular review on the situation to make sure that we don't fall into the situation of HMOs has not been able to, benefit the socio-economic status of this council?
Yeah, definitely. I'm very happy to keep it open for review. But just to provide some reassurance, improving living conditions is clearly set out as one of the council's priorities. And in terms of that HMO, we have got officers already, who are working with other organisations, partners to go door to door to investigate and to proactively enforce. And as part of those meetings I had with Matthew and Jack, we did agree some additional funding to hire more resources to get more people in to boost that team. So it is coming. I hope we will keep an eye on it.
Thank you, Councillor Graham. Before we move on to the motions, we're going to have a 5-minute comfort break.
Ladies and gentlemen, council members, please be upstanding whilst the male party leave the council chamber. mayoral party.
Thank you, please be seated. The final agenda item is to deal with any motions proposed by members. There are 2 motions to be discussed today. Councillor Williamson, would you please move your motion to council?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm pleased to be moving this motion today. As a former bus driver and a current bus user, I'm all too familiar with how our bus system is failing our district. The unreliable and frequent services that are often cancelled or missing. People who are left stranded after work because the last bus never showed. And round the service reductions that have seen some of our villages cut off from the rest of the district. Colleagues, it is clear that our bus services are in crisis. There are 2 futures set out in Wakefield consultation. Our group has made our position on buses very clear, that they should be publicly controlled and run in the interests of residents and not private profits. This is a position that has been largely endorsed across this chamber. In our June meeting, there were quite clearly a lot of cross-party consensus that the current system was not fit for purpose, when members expressed that privatisation failed and that deregulation was wrong. With all this in mind, I submit that franchising is the only meaningful option open to us. Franchising will give us a publicly controlled system where we have the ability to set fares, bus routes and frequencies, and it will give us the ability to plan a bus network fit for the future. Franchising would make our network more accessible and easier to navigate, with everything operating under one brand. The proposal for Wakefield to own buses and depots will enable us to improve our transition to net zero, and it will finally introduce some competition between operators by making it easier for new emerging providers to enter the market, and a better connected district will bring wider socio-economic benefits. I know that the bus operators have been lobbying support for this and Partnership Plus, but colleagues, this is a tried and tested model that has resulted in failure. Our current bus system is one that is already based on an enhanced partnership. More of this will not lead to better results. As Albert Einstein said, the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again but expecting different results. Some may point to positives that partnership working has brought us, like the cheaper tickets for under-19s or the mayor's fares, but these are all achievable with franchising anyway. But what is partnership? When operators cut bus routes and expect the taxpayer to pick up the pieces, is that partnership? What about the mayor's fares, where £2 cap single fares were brought in to make bus travel cheaper and to increase passenger footfall? Operators were getting the cost of the fares above £2 reimbursed, and how did they respond? By raising all their lower fares up to the cap, increasing their profits and undermining the reasons of the scheme in the first place. With partners like that, no wonder we not only want the divorce but want custody of the services as well. All the current model has done is privatise profit, socialise risk. I say we socialise both. As a commercially led bus work will always be a net loss to the public purse. Whilst I support meaningful reform, we must not forget that the staff our network relies upon. One of the main reasons for the service cuts is the bus drivers' shortage, driven by factors such as poor pay and conditions, which bus operators are willing to address. Yes, last year bus drivers did get a decent pay rise, but this was during high inflation off the back of years of real pay cuts, meaning the pay rises achieved were what they should have been 8 years ago. And it wasn't awarded out of the kindness of the operator, but was won by the industrial action taken by drivers. When we look at the response of the haulage industry to their driver shortage, we saw companies significantly improve driver pay and include signing on bonuses. And that's where our bus drivers are going. That is why this motion seeks to include enhanced rates of pay and better driving conditions, franchising policy about responding positively and seriously to the needs of our district and our residents. We need public control, we need franchising, we need a better deal for working people, and we need a bus network our district can be proud of. I implore you all to support this motion. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Lee. Is the motion seconded? Thank you, Councillor Ali. Do you wish to formally speak now or reserve your right to speak until later in the debate?
Speak now, Madam Mayor. Madam Mayor, colleagues, I am both proud and honoured to second this motion, and I will not speak for too long. However, let me add some personal and political reflections. It is vital that people get control back of our buses. Privatisation and multinational takeovers have done nothing but harm to the bus services that our community depend on. Decades of Tory mismanagement and deregulation have had disastrous impact on bus services. It is not surprising when you remember that Margaret Thatcher thought that anyone having to use the bus service was a failure. It is typically the poorest and the most vulnerable who depend on buses to get them to work, to school, to town, to shop, or to meet friends, or to get to hospital appointments. People cannot rely on bus services anymore. It is a complete and utter disgrace. Many Labour members in this chamber, including myself, have campaigned for better bus services for our local communities because we know how important they are to workers, pensioners and young people. Over the past decades, there has been an absolute decline in the quality and quantity of bus services. When you walk into Wakefield bus station, you will see bus services after bus service cancelled. Often the bus doesn't turn up and folk don't know when they are going to get home or to work. The current companies are treating passengers, local people and their workers with contempt. We must reverse the law. This is a good motion, a vitally important motion for the communities that we serve. Please vote for this motion. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Please turn your microphone. Does any member wish to speak on the motion? May I remind members that speeches must be directed to the question under discussion or to a personal explanation or point of order. No speech may exceed 5 minutes. Councillor Hemingway.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I rise to support this motion. I think it's right that as a council we set out our position clearly on the future of West Yorkshire's bus network, and in doing so sends an unequivocal message that we support franchising and public control. Deregulation begun in the 80s by the Thatcher government has been an unmitigated disaster. The stated aim of increasing competition and patronage has never been realised. In fact, very much the opposite is the case. Services have got worse, less frequent, less reliable, while covering fewer routes. I've seen this evidence with my own eyes. I don't drive, I use buses every day, and I've witnessed how in recent years the standard of service has declined even further. I'm bombarded with similar stories from my constituents, tagged in many photos on social media of mass cancellations, of journeys and lives disrupted. The bus companies may blame many factors for this situation, but their failure to get a grip of driver shortages is undoubtedly amongst the most serious. Things have to change. I, like many members of this chamber, have received this paid postage direct communication from the West Yorkshire campaign. It promises better bus services under another enhanced partnership with the bus operators. It doesn't actually contain any transparency information about who's funded it or where it's from, but given the fact that the head of First Bus is promoting it on social media, it's safe to assume it's coming from the bus companies. I'm sorry, but this is too little too late. If only we'd spent half as much time actually improving bus services as they're now fighting desperate lobbying to keep the contracts, then things might have got better. And I think if you ask any member of the public who's a bus user, they will tell you the same thing. Our operators have had chance after chance, years to come forward with improvements, and so far they've failed dismally. I have no confidence that another partnership would deliver the improvements required. It would just be more of the same. It's time that we took back proper control of our bus network, and that means public control and franchising. Franchising would allow us to improve and integrate routes, fares and timetables. It would help us deal with many of the structural issues affecting the bus network. As this motion sets out very well, we know there is a driver shortage and that paying conditions for drivers is a major issue. It's something that a new franchise network must look to address as early as possible. If we want a well-run and reliable bus network, must be properly staffed, and those staff must have proper pay conditions and morale to work for that service and not be in regular dispute with a company that doesn't seem to care about their needs and support. I support the position in this motion and also support a fully franchised control system for buses. Let's bring them back under public control for the sake of the public in West Yorkshire. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Gate.
Well, I don't think it will come as any surprise to anybody in this chamber that I'm also rising to support this motion. I've made my feelings clear on public transport many times. As many of you know, I was also a bus driver, but I started before deregulation, so I actually saw all the changes happen, and it was terrible. It really was. When I first started driving buses, it was a good job to have. It was like being in a family. You know, passengers treated you well because you were happy. And then deregulation come along, private companies come in, they got rid of all the council bosses, brought their own bosses in, pay got cut, conditions got worse, you were expected to drive vehicles that were not safe, you were bullied if you dared to stand up and say, I'm not going to drive this bus because it's not safe, and put under pressure to take it out of the garage. I could go on and on and on. You know, it's been an absolute nightmare. It's been a complete failure as privatisation. It brought it home to me one day when I was driving. I won't name the company that I used to drive for. What I'll say is that they weren't last. So I think you can look it out. And I pulled up at a bus stop. And I hadn't realised that I'd started to be like this. I opened the doors, and a little old lady was in front of the queue and, oh, don't say, oh, it's that miserable again. And I looked at myself in the mirror and I thought, I am. And that's what the job it turned me into. I was so miserable. And that is why you know drivers. Because of the way they've been treated. The way they've been ground down, so nobody wants the job. Before I were a bus driver, I were in the army, I was in the Royal Engineers, and one of my jobs was clearing mines and IEDs. Given the choice, I'd go back to do that before I drive a bus again. That's how bad driving buses in the private sector is. You know, I left the buses in 2005. My wage was just short of £11 an hour. I think Jake looked up the wage. It's not far off that now, is it?
Starting wage,
no, starting wage. Starting wage is what it was when I left in 2005. How can you expect people to do a job like that for that kind of money? Come on. So, yeah, I support this motion wholeheartedly. And it's time to bring the buses back on the public control. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Medford.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I just want to say that I really welcome this motion. Buses are terrible throughout our world, but I'm particularly concerned about Kirkthorpe. Kirkthorpe Village is cut off if you haven't got a car or a friend or family member
Fernwood.
Me?
Yep.
Sorry, I forgot my name. The intentions of, I will be supporting the motion. I'm going to say that the rantings of the second are about a lady who died 30 odd years ago, who deregulated buses before he was even born, and who never intended it to be like it is now, because she didn't. That wasn't what it was intended at all. But it hasn't turned out that way. What we've got, or what we seem to have got, is a bunch of petty pilferers basically loading the system for their own benefit and not for the benefit of the public. And that's the problem with it. It doesn't work. And the people that run some of these things, and it's not all of them, I'm sure some of them are very good. But I know in some cases where people, you know, some of these companies are running things for the benefit of some of the senior managers rather than the benefit of the people who get on the buses. That's what I think is going on. I know because I could say a lot more than I have, but I will be supporting the motion because the buses don't work. Not that I get on them, but you know, I know people who do.
Thank you. Councillor Ahmed.
I'll be supporting the motion today. I think Councillor Williamson addressed the issue quite clearly and mentioned it. I think, obviously, I don't agree with digging out Margaret Thatcher and pointing to the past, but that's down to everyone's levels of maturity, and if they want to do that, that's fine. Majority of buses in Wakefield are not good, and we get them. I think it was one of the councils I mentioned in there. We've got emails from people who have to go to Pinderfields Hospital in Southwark and spend something like £9 on buses, something they have to do because of the bus service not being adequate or not being, and I think that's really unjustified when that person has to find that money out of their own pocket, which they're not able to do. And although we have these political things that are given to us, that most people don't step outside them because they want these political careers and they're unable to say when their own government or people within their government, this on all sides of the chamber. I've always stood, I believe, when I think something is wrong, I don't believe that private ownership has benefited the bus service. And there's other services that I don't agree with, and I'll say this, I don't care if somebody tells me that I'm wrong, or I get an email telling me that I can't say it, I'll keep saying it. If somebody has a problem with it, they can have a problem with it. The bus services serve quite a lot of people from income streams that haven't got access to cars, can't afford parking spaces, and haven't got access to them. It provides transport for elderly people as well. And if this motion helps us to get a better bus service in Wakefield, then I will support that. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Councillor Keith.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I think what we've got to do is stop just looking back too long. And we've got to view this problem post-COVID. There hasn't been... I don't know, it's a train for me. He's got a bus online or something. Move on with the timetable. So we'll say without, we've got to view this post-COVID because the void that COVID created hasn't been filled. This is an opportunity that we make and we should have taken it. Basically, or the companies that provide the service should have taken it because it was an ideal opportunity to get people back using public transport. We've heard about how difficult it is to park in Wakefield earlier on, and that's because people have reverted back to using their cars because they can't rely on the service. Routes need to, and services need to be reviewed and reinvigorated, and some service, there's certainly got to be somebody looking in terms of upgrading the provision of the fleet of vehicles because we've got to all go greener, and there's been little or no effort in that, and I've still seen buses riding about belching black smoke out. So this isn't going to happen with a partner who marches to the sound of a ringing till, and the priority is the profit that they make for them and their shareholders. So I support the motion.
Thank you. Councillor Swift.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Obviously supporting the motion. We deserve not just a public
franchising is a very useful step on that route. Now, I am actually old enough to remember the 1986 deregulation, and I can assure Councillor Homewood that the bad practices he's talking about were there right from the beginning. Right from the beginning, you got the asset stripping of bus stations, garages, etc., in a whole load of places. Right from the beginning, you got the cuts in the actual conditions of service and pay of the employees. The companies set up dummy companies down the road that went non-union and eventually undermined the actual established ones. Now, I just want to go back to something that Councillor Hemingway was talking about. And that's this very, very active, high-profile campaign being mounted by the bus operators against franchising. Now, in a lot of ways, the West Yorkshire Combined Authority, in operating their consultation, have got their hands tied behind their back. You'll notice, for instance, even in the title, Bus Reform, it's kind of got, very neutral. And if you see the material that's produced, it is very much on the one hand and on the other hand. Because we are operating in a legal straitjacket, and as was demonstrated in Greater Manchester, the companies will not hesitate to go to the courts if they allege that the procedure, the assessment, the hoops to be gone through are not being done exactly as per the law. I say that because I think we should all, none of us should assume that we can sit back and it's a self-evident, as the prophecy foretold, that it will, that the process will go the way it should do. I think we should all make certain that we and anybody we have influence over put their free penny in. So, very much advocating support for the motion, realising that it's not perfection, and realising we've got people with very strong vested interest pushing the other way. Supporting the motion, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Haynes.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I've been a Class 1 HGV holder, a CPC holder. I've never held a PSV, but I don't see anything wrong with this as a submission to the West Yorkshire Mayor while they're considering buses and the future of buses in this area. It don't spring to mind the advantage of having the same rules for lorry driving and this business of calling bus checks driving hours. I don't see the advantage of that because of the 9-hour rule on lorry drivers, but you'll maybe don't see some advantage of that. It don't automatically spring to mind. But I've never thought that privatised bus regimes were a good idea. I have relatives living in London that don't own cars because there's no point. And if we could reach a point in West Yorkshire where you don't own the car because the bus service is that reliable, it'd be a better place to live.
Yeah. Rising to support the motion, it's a good motion. I'm pleased to see that these, across the chamber of people can support it. And I just advise the friends of this. It's never worked properly. And if you use the model of the railway, you'll find out exactly the same. And whenever we've had this problem on the railways, the only railways now that the railway companies or the railway organisations that's running the system, that's making a profit, that's running an efficient service, is the one that they've had to take back into public ownership. And the model certainly hasn't worked on the railways, and it's certainly not worked with the buses. And as Councillor Haynes just touched on, you visit places like London, and you don't need a big, there's the old adage of, you want one and 10 come along at once. And you can go to the other cities into Manchester and other places like that that's moving that way with their tram system and their public transport system. And if you want to have an agenda going forward about cleaner air and cleaner living air for our people in cities and communities, this has got to be the way forward. Good publicly owned buses, serving the community, serving a lot of our people in our
Councillor Morley.
Deregularisation must be in spirit, Madam Mayor. It's got to have been, because if the government today was serious about it, they'd have done it in London, because they didn't do. London's got a fit for purpose transport system that we're all envious across the country. I was going to make the point that Councillor Smith made, though it's all right going down franchising and back in public control. What we need, though, is public funding. When you're thinking something like £60 odd, £70 per head of population in the north compared to £300 odd around London, we need a future government, and any government, to make sure they'll fund the bus services properly and all public transport. We're all aiming for now getting people to public transport, use cars, use buses, use trains. Well, we've got the misery already of the 110 that goes out of Wakefield to Leeds, that has been cancelled, that doesn't run at times. We've now also got 25 reduction on the busy Doncaster to Leeds train as well, with less carriages on that. So that's more work for people. If they can't get the bus, they'll have to get the train. Can't get that. How are we going to get people into work into our major cities? So anyone who's listening, we need to start writing to our MPs, anybody, to make sure that they will listen and give a future funding for this. But can I urge everybody in this chamber, everybody out there in the district, get involved in the consultation, support what the Mayor's doing and back the Mayor on this, what we desperately need.
Thank you. Councillor Williamson, you have the right of reply if you wish. In exercising your right of reply, may I remind you that no new matter can be introduced.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just to go over a few, I'll just take up Councillor James's points first about the difference in driving hours between like HGV drivers and bus drivers. I mean, you mentioned it yourself, like 9 hours daily driving, bus drivers is 10. Bus drivers can drive up to 5.5 hours before a break. HGV drivers, sorry, I'm full of thought and stuff. It's 4.5 hours. And I think the most important part is a bus driver can work up until midnight and then be forced back into work at 8:30 the very next morning. When you factor in trying to get home, having a shower, having something to eat, getting up, getting changed, driving to work and stuff, you go into work with no sleep. And it's not just about improving the conditions for bus drivers. There's a big serious question mark over public safety there. Why are we allowing self-to-own buses to be driven around by people who are potentially knackered at the end of the day? It's just wrong. And if we're saying these set of standards are okay for one set of drivers, shot by professional drivers, surely we should just apply across the board when we're talking about absolute public safety, the safety of other road users and things like that. But both the welfare of the drivers themselves, they're likely to get into accidents and get dismissed and things like that. So that's that point. I fully support Councillor Swift's comments on, I think we've all agreed we want fully funded and potentially publicly owned bus companies, bus services, but sadly that's not a legal option open to us. And if we are serious about fundamentally reforming the public transport and making it better for the residents that rely on it and hopefully increase passenger footfall, to decrease congestion on those roads and stuff, we have to work with what we've got, and it's quite, it's that simple. And Councillor Keith mentioned the black smoke emitting out of buses, and I just want to highlight that currently, across all of West Yorkshire, 2% of those buses are electric and 4% hybrid. They're from scratch from the Combined Authority. And most of that is relied on public funding. It's quite clear the bus operators are not up to the task of doing their bit to reduce emissions. They're just clearly not. And I think while the taxpayers are expected to foot the bill for every improvement, right, that we're trying to push operators into making, we've got to foot the bill, so why not just publicly control the whole lot and we can make the decisions for the good of the public. And I'll just end on this. Public services should be run for the public good. The clue is in the name. Thank you.
Thank you. So we'll now move to the vote. I don't want it to put it on, sorry. We will now move to the vote. Please show all those in favour of the motion. Please show those against the motion. Any abstentions? That's carried. The second motion is from Councillor Medford. Councillor Medford, would you please move in?
Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Councillor Medford, can you just bear with me just 1 minute? I just need to take some legal advice. Somebody's declared an interest.
Could you just turn your microphone off, Councillor Medford? Thank you. The Mayor is asking me that there was a declaration of interest earlier in this one. I believe it was Councillor Sharp who declared that she had a disclosable pecuniary interest in this. Councillor Sharp, under the terms of the Council's Code of Conduct for Councillors, you are now asked to leave the room for this item, please.
You did send me an email saying that it was just advice and it's part of the Code of Conduct. However, it's not law. I'm not going to partake in the discussion. I'm not going to vote. So it doesn't make a difference whether it's that here or not, does it?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Councillor Sharp, the Localism Act requires you not to participate. The Code of Conduct adopted by this Council, if I recall correctly, unanimously back in June, does require you to leave. So if you do not leave, you will be in breach of the Code of Conduct.
Okay, fine, thank you.
Councillor Medford.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I think most of us in this room recognise the importance of banks on the high street. It's something that I've grown up being taught really by my parents. My mum used to work at the Halifax Building Society as it was then in Normanton. And my granddad said to me when I was 8, Julie, I'm going to give you £25. You're going to put it in the Halifax and you're going to buy a house. I found that amusing when I was 8, but he said to me, he did do that, he put £25 in the Halifax. And he used to take me in the working men's clubs and all his friends would give me money and we'd all on every Saturday and put more money in the Halifax, which is now of course the Halifax Bank. When I was 21, I bought the house, I got a mortgage out of the Halifax, which I've still got unfortunately. And this is, obviously it's really sad for me that that's closing, and I've been approached as a councillor by many, many people in the town, very concerned, and it's that I wanted to tell you about Alan and Hazel. I've only met Alan and Hazel because they've started the petition against the closure of the bank. They are amazing, I think they're both retired, both quite elderly, and yet they've got 3,500 signatures on paper by sitting outside that bank every Tuesday and every Saturday for months. I feel very honoured that they've given me this petition to show you this afternoon. There's pages of it. There's also 800 signatures on the internet. It's absolutely amazing what they've done. But within that, they told me some very sad tales of people who've come to them desperate to sign this petition. They've had people contacting them saying, we're going to sign it. spoken to this week, they all tie in with the national picture and the problems that are being faced by groups of people when banks close. The closures will affect older people who are more likely to be digitally excluded, more unlikely to be able to use mobile banking. Some haven't got phones and some cannot cope with all the extra travel to banks in the major towns. The disabled survey by which in June 2023, the disabled banking survey showed that 50% of disabled people surveyed said branch closures had had a negative impact on the access to banking services. Small businesses need access to branches to deposit cash, and card machines can have higher charges.
30 seconds left.
So, this is why I'm proposing this motion, why it is so important that the council take action. I just want to read the last section of it. The Wakefield Council resolves that the leader of the council and the portfolio holder for regeneration and economic growth will write a joint letter to the Economic Secretary to the Treasurer, expressing the council's concern.
Last time, Councillor Medford.
Alright, you've got it on your pages anyway.
Is the motion seconded?
Yes, Madam Mayor, I'm actually also. That might be a bit shocking.
Thank you, Councillor Keith. Do you wish to formally speak now or reserve your right to speak?
I'll formally speak now and then back the floor if you don't mind. We must, as I mentioned, this isn't just a consequence of modern day methods. This has been happening for some years. The problems that we face with the banking system could also be transcribed to other sectors today. Healthcare, fuel costs, and as we've heard, public transport. Any service provision, really. Because in the mad rush to privatise, we've lost sight of the end user. The person who usually pays for the service. The customer who should be king isn't considered enough. And certainly not before any possible profit or the chance of making a bigger one. Some of us may recall when paying weekly in a wage packet, you received your money that you earned in your hand for you to spend or to save in a bank or a building society. You sorted out any anomalies there and then and would address within a week. But banks saw an opportunity to gain some lucrative business, your business. So we were told, because of things like wages snatchers, it would be better if you were paid monthly by cheque. But you need to have a bank account, because it was better, and it wasn't. It might have sounded more modern, but involved inconvenience. Checks needed clearing time, you needed to go between the bank to get your hands on your cash. And many wages clerks were made redundant at that time because the banks wanted the business. Some paid their wages in and drew straight out, and the banks warned the accounts weren't profitable and would engage in being closed unless you used it more. You see, the banks didn't just want your business, they just wanted your money. And you were an inconvenience that they had to put up with to get it. But at the same time, tellers and advice staff were given targets and turned into sales people to sell us so-called products for the bank profit. They told you and encouraged you to go to use the automatic machines rather than people to see the person. The same machines that would replace them in their jobs later on. Building societies were turned into banks, and those who orchestrated it walked off with big payouts and pensions, and the scheme failed around them and we were left worse off. Remember Fred the Shred? How many people involved in charities have come to me and told me about these things? One said, to get your business, they promised you free banking, and then when you were sucked in, the charges started. These are the same people who took our money and risked it playing at the global banking casino and lost. Remember Lehman Brothers and the financial crisis of 2007, which led us to Cameron, Osborne, austerity, and much of the financial headaches that we have today. Because the then Labour government
signatures must be directed to the question under discussion or to a personal explanation or point of order. Councillor Rowley.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Can I just say that the other aspect that has perhaps not been mentioned is the whole issue of the issue of cash and the issue of debt. And when you're in Ossett during the day, the cash machine, there's now two, but sort of the main cash machine has a long queue, always a long queue, because that's the only access to money in Ossett. Consequently, I've actually seen people give up queuing and decide to use their cards. And the problem with credit cards and debit cards is that you can often get into more debt than you can if you're actually paying cash. The other aspect is that we have a thriving market, we referred to it earlier, and a lot of the people on the market want cash. So we've got the whole issue about sort of not only the economics of the town of Ossett, but we've also got opportunities to get into more debt because you have no access to a bank. And I really am concerned that, in fact, on the one hand, the banks, as Councillor Keith has just referred to, are there for their services and to make profit out of us. On the other hand, we've got a situation where they're not taking into account the whole ability of people to increase the debt, which we actually see across the district. So I really not only support this resolution, but feel that we should widen it to that whole thing of access to cash and the risk of getting into more debt because we have no access to banks. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Fisher.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm mindful that we had a very similar discussion a few months ago when we were talking about railway ticket office closures. And thankfully, we've seen a reversal of policy on that. And I hope that we're going to see a reversal of policy in terms of these decisions here. Because I like this situation that we have there. Only a small minority of people were buying tickets from the ticket office. But as we said in that discussion, the ones who needed to buy them in person needed to see someone in person to get proper advice about what they were doing. And the same thing applies to banking. For most people, I can go 2 or 3 years without speaking to anyone in my bank. I need to speak to someone in my bank. I want to speak to someone in my bank. And a face-to-face interaction is important as part of that. So in the same, I think we need to recognise that banking is something that we all need. It's universal. And I think, like the post office, we should have a universal service obligation so that everybody can access banking services in their communities in a reasonable way. So I think, hopefully we'll pass the resolution, but we actually forget the agreement with the Minister. I think it needs to address the issue about having reasonable access to in-person banking for people, both as individuals and critically as well for businesses.
Thank you. Councillor Williamson.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm quite supportive of this motion because not long after my election in May, I received an email basically saying that Emsworth's last bank branch was going to close. And it has done now. I think it's okay when banks are making these decisions and they say, oh, it's okay because we've got a branch in Barnsley or we've got a branch in Wakefield. But as I highlighted under the last motion, we haven't got the buses to get people to those branches. So it's a complete farce. And I hear people saying, oh, well, who uses banks anymore? Everything's online. We've got Monzo, and we've got this, and we've got that. Taking, losing banks and stuff and closing them down will just force people online. And then I think of people like Grandma. She's in her late 70s. She still uses VHS. Still using the old tapes, sort of films you put in, and then she's got a mobile phone, but it's one of those old weekend style things with a snake on. It was like one of my first phones, to be honest, which I ever got. And she's not interested and she don't feel comfortable going online, using apps, getting a smartphone or anything like that. And we're clearly in a place where closing branches and closing these public-facing facilities are going to force a section of the society online. They're not bothered, it's not going to happen. And I think while we're in that position, where there's people who just won't go online and stuff, we can't close every single service like this. It's not fair on them. You know, how are they going to be able to access the money and, you know, take money in, take money out, and go ask for advice on issues with their accounts and stuff like that? It's just not right. So I fully support this motion. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Shaw.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm probably one of the guilty people who use internet banking, probably 95% of the time, and my wife certainly uses internet banking, probably 100% of the time. And that's driven this certain thing this way. But 2 or 3 weeks ago, I had an occasion where I thought I need to go down and talk to somebody at Lloyd's Bank in Castleford, where I bank. So I needed to go down and talk to somebody. And part of the argument that banks have been pulling all along is nobody uses banks now, because 90% of people are doing what I do. So I went down to Lloyd's Bank with my wife, and I just couldn't believe it. There were queues in that bank, not just for getting cash out all the way down here. They've got 2 certain tables where you can go talk to people. There was one woman, she was run raggy because there's a queue there going outside for people who want to talk to somebody about the banking. And I know a number of those people, and they're same as me, that predominantly use banking. That's all right until something goes wrong. So I'm starting to think, what's happening here about people don't want to use banks or they don't. That's just a fallacy in my sort of side. The other side I'm really concerned about is fraud. Anybody who watches TV now can see the amount of fraud that's coming through. And I've had them, and I know my wife's had them, where you get pop-ups and all that side. And I come back to what Councillor Williamson just said. You know, there are, and ain't just older people, there's younger people who make a mistake. And it's a costly mistake when they make a mistake. And finally, what I will say is the number of times in Airedale, which is my ward, we've got near us 3 banking systems where you go get your money out just outside shops. That's all right. The last 2 weeks, 2 of them have been down, and the 3rd one went down for 3 days the other day. So anybody who lives in Airedale, Jake's right. They've got to catch a bus, because believe you me, a lot of them ain't got cards. They've got to catch a bus to go down to Castleford to stand in a queue that's outside a bank. If anybody thinks that they've got this right, there's something wrong with them. I really fully support this. It's about time to start to open banks up in these areas. And why don't they think? And why don't they, if they're talking about there's too many banks in areas, why don't they open it up? And on a Monday and a Tuesday, Lloyds can use it. On a Wednesday, Barclays can use it. But you've got somebody to go and talk to. So I fully support the motion.
Thank you. Councillor Rhodes.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I fully support the motion because the way things are working today in terms of the banks, either they're closing them down or they're actually reducing the operation hours, and that's happening in Wakefield. It's not in the favour of the people and the money that they've got in there, it's in favour of the bank itself, and some of them have actually closed positions within the bank where you could actually go and speak to somebody about it. And, you know, we all have bank cards and our cash. Anybody around here today that didn't have that I could get some money off them is an example. But there you go, this is how the world is. Councillor Shaw has actually touched on the issue that I was going to mention as well. There's 2 issues. One is, we all had a manage my account and looking at overdrafts, seeing, oh, I'm all right, and are getting into debt at a time when we have the country with people in Wakefield in dire straits because of the cost of living. And it's a case of going from one thing to another to another. The only thing that hasn't happened to my knowledge, and if anybody knows different, I'd be glad to hear it, is the shareholders in all of these. And they seem to, from the banking point, be the ones that never are reduced in terms of how many shares that are going out there from the national companies. And it relates back to everything we've heard about the shortage of what we have within our communities, post offices. We've got this now with the banks. We have now within our communities out there the closure of outreach chemists. And all of this is happening at a time when people haven't got the ability within their communities, A, to get to work, B, to get a bus if you've got one, and C, to try and manage their finances to suit their needs. And it's time that I think the public out there were actually made aware of what the consequences of all these are. Because you know what happens? Nobody knows until it actually happens to them what happened. And fraud. Twice on my car, I've been defrauded on my car. And it's so simple. But the point about it all is we are losing everything that's out there, particularly in communities that need these facilities. They need them badly, and I fully support this motion today because this is something that's got to be brought out there for everybody to understand why it's happening, who's doing it, and what are the consequences in the community, and above all, who's benefiting from all these cuts and closures.
Thank you. Councillor Richard. Mr. Richard.
I think this is the outcome of a big scam, to be honest with you. I mean, Margaret will tell you better than most of you. So, obviously. But when they stop people on benefits, cashing the jails at the post offices, and saying, well, you now have to go to a bank, well, like Jane, we've got a bank in Preston. So, then what will they do? They decide then that we've got to do what with banks. We'll now start at the post offices. We will want to Featherstone. One of the best post offices in Featherstone. But the closes down because they want to benefit people coming. You're already told benefit people, you can't cast the giants. It's a big con, it's a big stitch up. And once again, here we are. What can we do about it? And it isn't just because of closing back in Norway. I'll tell you this. We tried our damnedest to say, well, the last bank we are, we got a petition together, we stood outside and had dialogues with placards and what have you. They just think, also we're not bothered about it. Closing, I mean, it's now garbage or something like that. So we're all victims, aren't we? You can't do petrol, it kills you, so you'll all have to go on deals. Why don't we go on deals? So they say, no, it's not that, it's diesel, we'll shut down. We're being conned left, right and centre every day of the week, and we're falling for it.
Thank you. Councillor Harvey.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I understand that the members are very frustrated on behalf of residents for the closure of the banking branches. But however, we also need to recognise the very important role bank branches play in the community cohesion, and they support a lot of local charities as well. So, well, the shortfall of the services, we as an authority also has to look out the opportunity to engage with them, to actually reach out pre the closure decision. I think some dialogues need to be happened well before we get the contract outside the branch, and that is, I think, an important lesson to look at the other side of the point as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Davis.
Yeah, I just want to make this issue a little bit wider. I run 2 local volunteer groups in my community. I'm lucky in that I've got somebody who can take me into town to pay money into the bank. I'm concerned that since COVID we've lost hundreds of voluntary groups, and if the people that are running the groups can't actually get to a bank to pay the cash in, because most voluntary groups work on cash, then we're going to lose a lot more. So, yeah, I support this.
Councillor Poland.
Yeah, banks are places that lend you money when you don't need to borrow money. That's what they are. Alright? And that's all they're interested in is getting your money off. Alright? And I've got accounts with 3 banks in Wakefield. And one of them, they ought to call it Lucan's, not Barclays, because Lord Lucan seems to be running it, he's never there. You know? And other accounts, that, you know, the sort of things that they try and do, they don't do it online. There's limits to how much money you can transfer from one account to another, and then they want extra money for increasing that, or you've got to mess about. But, you know, depositing cash, 6% handling charge. That's what they charge for some business accounts. 6%, that's a lot of money. And the manning of counters, and, you know, even where they've got sort of manned counters, a lot of those sort of shut at 1 o'clock or something like that, and then you've got to go and use that machine in the wall, you know. And I've got a lot of, there's a lot of bankers in my family. I think that's what they said. But, you know, and as I say, I can only say, well, bankers, that's it.
I think the resolution is well supported, and I just want to add that I think everybody's contributed in a positive way. But my worry is, I mean, it touches across most things we've discussed today, whether it be people attending markets or people travelling on public transport, is that in some cases, especially some of our elderly, it's that visit a week to get to go out and communicate with somebody at a bank. And I remember my late father-in-law, who's been dead for quite a few years now, and he was said to me, he's pretty face, I see all the way when I come get me with a pension on Friday, Rob Bank, and he didn't send it in any nasty way or any sort of, the fact he were a person you could speak to. We touched it today with fraud, with not always older people being able to deal with the old system on apps and on smartphones. And it's just another part of the community that we're losing. And I think it's important that we try to do as level best to keep what we've got. I understand, and I get the side of things about people don't use them anymore. People stop using them anymore because they take them away from us. That's the reason why they are. You could stand in our post office 20 years ago queuing for your pension, so my dad used to tell me, and find out what it cost me that pension queue, then it was better buy lose the world, leave it to a buy to all sitting post office queue. The point of mechanism, it's another area which worries me, that especially some of our elderly that live alone, that live quite sometimes long lives, which is their once or twice a week connection with outside world. And I think we should treasure that if we care about the people, especially our vulnerable and elderly people, and I support the resolution.
Thank you. Councillor Graham.
Thank you, Mayor. I was shocked when I learned about just how many bank closures have been across this district. And I think if you look at 20, 30 years ago, we had lots of banks in every town, now reduced to Wakefield, Castleford and Pontefract. Should these 2 closures go ahead, which sadly I feel like they're going to. And I asked myself sort of what's changed, because the population's gone up, so surely these banks have more customers, surely they're making more profit than ever. Demand hasn't gone down, people are using them really well. And it does come down to that argument of it is putting profit before what I deem a really important public service. They, not only that, coming off the high streets, leaving void units, like no business rates there. You're telling me these big businesses can't afford to have a branch on each of our high streets? Of course they can, but they'd rather the money goes into shareholders' pockets, as Councillor Betty Rose mentioned earlier. I don't think this motion is asking for the world. I think it's really, for banks to consider and to speak to local partners in the council about the impact it's having on communities and to take that into consideration before you make any big decisions, I think is a really reasonable ask. And so for that reason, I'll be wholeheartedly supporting the motion.
Thank you. Councillor Medford, you have the right of reply if you wish. In exercising your right of reply, may I remind you that no new matter can be introduced.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I think it's all been said really, and thank you to everyone who's spoken in support for this motion. I'm just going to end with 3 lines really, that people need proper banks, the banks can afford the rent, the banks can afford the cash, they are letting people down when they close. Thank you.
Thank you. So we'll now move to the vote. Please show all those in favour of the motion. All those against the motion? Any abstentions? That's carried. And that, colleagues, is the last item on the agenda. Thank you all for your attendance. And I now declare the meeting closed.
Ladies and gentlemen, council members, please be upstanding whilst the mayoral party leave the council chamber.